Well, folks, here we are again on Friday morning. Of course, the big news this week was the upper air low that moved through the central plains, particularly across Kansas. We've seen some significant moisture across Kansas. We've seen some significant tornadic activity around the Dallas-Fort Worth into northeastern Texas. For Nebraska proper, we were on the northern periphery of that spinning upper air low as it slowly moved its way eastward. And so southern Nebraska was the beneficiary of the precipitation, particularly those border counties right along the Kansas-Nebraska intersect. And as you got north of there, the precipitation totals dropped off rather dramatically. We were looking at around an inch totals, pretty common across the southern border region. As you got up the Interstate 80 corridor, precipitation totals dropped off into the quarter to half-inch range, and there was another pocket that developed from Grand Island up to Ord where we also seen the same type of pattern. Now, east of there and west of there, no significant moisture, if at all, just a few sprinkles. So our precipitation deficits continue to increase, and we're starting to get very, very concerned because we should be getting a half an inch right now per week. By the end of April, we'll be up to 3/4 of an inch. So each week we go without precipitation, those deficits increase rather dramatically. There was a hard freeze in the eastern Corn Belt this morning, particularly in the upper Great Lakes region, moving into portions of Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. It's going to take time, but we'll have to wait and see if there was any damage to some of the early planted corn, and some of that corn went in very early in the month of March. For us proper, we do have a chance for freezing conditions, at least in the Panhandle, as we go through this weekend, and then some of those freezing conditions may return to portions of eastern Nebraska, particularly later into the next week. So let's take a look at the upper air model and see what we have going. Here's our energy that's now moving off the eastern seaboard, and we look into the west as this trough starts to move over top of this ridge. It's going to drive a cold front at the surface through our region. We'll be looking at the chance for scattered thunderstorm activity developing in western Nebraska this afternoon, and then that will move across the state and exit eastern Nebraska sometime during the morning hours tomorrow. Right now the models are indicating about a 1/4 inch general coverage across eastern Nebraska. We may see some heavier precipitation in isolated cells, but overall the speed of the system moving through the state is likely to limit the amount of moisture we will get from it. And as the system pulls over top of the ridge, we are going to start to see cold air filtering in. So as we go into tomorrow, we're going to be looking at highs that are going to drop into the upper 50s across the north, and across the south we'll be looking at the upper 50s, and that system will move toward the Great Lakes on Sunday, and we will start to see some ridging and warmer air try to move into our region. So we're going to look a bump up in temperatures to the upper 50s, low 60s across the north. As we get to the southern border region, we'll be looking at highs in the mid to upper 60s, and the cold air will move into the Great Lakes and start developing a pretty significant trough. So by the time we get to Monday, you'll see that the cold air is sweeping through the Dakotas into the eastern Great Lakes, and that means that we'll see a repeat of frost conditions. For northeastern Nebraska, there is a possibility that some of this cold air will start to move in as early as Monday evening and give us some scattered frost conditions as we go into Tuesday morning. But for the remainder of eastern Nebraska, our better chance of freezing conditions will be as we go into Wednesday morning. As this cold air starts to dig and push back toward the west, we'll be looking at highs in the northeast in the low 50s, the low 60s across the west, with some scattered frost again possible across eastern Nebraska, particularly Wednesday morning. And you will see that then as we get into the afternoon of Wednesday, the ridge starts to redevelop, pushing that cold air to our east, a return to warmer conditions, upper 50s to low 70s. A warm front moves through, the chance of precipitation, and we'll start to see an upper air low trying to make its way out, which may give us a decent shot of moisture as we go into Thursday. Now the 8 to 14 day forecast indicates above normal temperatures returning to the state in terms of precipitation. With that front coming through, we'll be looking more of a normal precipitation pattern for the next Thursday through the following Tuesday.